Sift. I am not all water, nor does the cue ball sink me, nor the cowboy rope me, nor the monk sit through me. I am 1,000 faces at the bottom of the bottom's gravel. The sea sharpened stones that clink in soundless shift make one. And I am not all river, not the sand on the tongue's first someone, or even a falling star. I am all tooth and nail breaks that bitter under water, and a million years of sea smash dirt in your eye to dig out. I am not all nigger, a black hole crooning in the night, a country song in a deep jukebox chewed down and rumbling. So who decides who belongs here? Which tooth should have been kicked out when? Which hole ought to be filled? This is what I think. Every city has a country bar. I'm not always so tough when I walk in. What is rain to the desert is just another full mouth in some place like Portland. And I wonder if there are niggers here in Oregon, blackout dowels wet and papery, their mouths full of chalk. And some of you don't go here either, looking for ground to settle, or a place to sit that isn't soggy and cold. Same here. Everything grows damp, eventually. Anything can fall in. I can put on a bad face, understand. I can gun load and prostrate, could swallow you whole in any town. I could keep from throwing the beer bottle too, keep from tearing up the green with my teeth. But can I keep from being silt, from slipping wherever I go? And is everything something to rot, for our eyes to wriggle out of? But I am not all guilty, nor can I be all sea. This is just a bone song, one we can both whistle along the skin to, in a skulk drag, down through the rift. I mean, you know, the reality is I'm one of few black folks up here, and by few I don't mean few on campus. I'm actually, as far as faculty goes, I think I'm one of two on this, but I mean just in the whole area, I'm one of very few. I joked for a little while when I first got here that I checked the demographics of black folks in Traverse City, and or maybe it was Grand Traverse County, I don't know which one, and it's a crazy percentage. It's like 0.36% or something like that. And I was telling people that I think they changed it. Like, I think it rolled over when I crossed the border. Because I think it's me. I mean, you know, like, I can be in Meyer and not see another person of color. I mean, that's the other thing. It's not just black folks. Like, there's not a lot of people of color at all here in this town. I can be in, you know, Meyer, which is a huge grocery store. I mean, you know, any given day, there's at least a couple hundred people in that store, and I could be the only one. I'm very often the only one. And, so yeah, I mean, it's weird, you know, this idea of, like, whether you feel safe or not. I mean, I get kind of annoyed when people ask me, you know, if they'll go to some spot in Detroit and feel safe. My answer to them is kind of always like, well, you know, it depends on how you treat people, really. You know? And I mean, I think the same is true here, but that same sense of, like, being somewhere where you're not guaranteed that you're going to walk out of a situation the same way you walked into it. Like, I feel that here, and it's just, I think it's a matter of, you know, wondering if people have your back, you know, wondering if something happens, if people will care enough to help you. That's a little bit of, I wonder, I don't always feel that way here. People are very friendly, and very, pleasant, but I think you don't get very close to people here very easily. Of course, Interlochen's a different story. A lot of people here come from someplace else, and so, you know, it has this kind of like, it has a little bit of migrant feel to it, you know, like a hub. It feels like a hub. And so that's cool. I mean, you know, I feel safe on campus. I feel good at Interlochen for the most part. But the surrounding community, you know, I mean, it's taking some getting used to. Mm-hmm. From Mountain. The mountain was so tall and John Henry was so small, he laid down his hammer and he cried. From John Henry. And you can hold the golden clip and claim it restless, Lord, Lord. And you can mold the steel to hip and call it weapon, Lord, Lord. And you can grow the man a mountain and call him monster, Lord, Lord. And you can foot his cheek and choke him neck to summit, Lord, Lord. From machines above, from your aerial view, from the mouth of boom, from a rain of lead with a noose as grip, from an armored haven, from a tank of sanction. But we have listened rhythm, the tracks below you, the shells absorbed, the bodies limp. We have listened steady, we have heard you heavy, Lord, 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 Lord. But we have enlisted ribbon, the ridge beneath you, the kills of horror, the bodies cramped. We have lisped unsteady, we have deferred to crest. Lord, 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 Lord. But we have prisoned listen, the spill beseech you, the shrill aborts, the copies glint. We have glistened unsteady, we have churned the metal. Lord, 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 Lord. So Interlochen is a really small little town that is just south of Traverse City, and Traverse City is in sort of the northernmost part of Michigan before you get into, like, before you head towards Mackinac Island, before you go towards the Upper Peninsula. If you're coming the right way, it would be on your way to Mackinac Island. So, and then Interlochen is about 15 minutes south of that. But it's still kind of, it feels like a suburb of Traverse City, or, you know, in our outer-lying part of Traverse City. That's our town. Like, when we say go to town, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about going to Traverse City, which in and of itself is a really small town with, like, one strip and really kind of touristy and, you know, cute little shops, but, like, it's one of these places where it feels like there's just, like, one or two of everything. There's, like, you know, a couple theaters, but there's, like, one indie theater. There's one, you know, main playhouse. There's one library. Well, I guess there are a lot of bars. There's a lot of craft breweries. There's a lot of restaurants, but, you know, as far as the thing, you know, the cultural things, there's one museum, you know, all that stuff. So, and then Interlochen is just a really small offshoot of that. The community is sort of built around, well, I guess the largest part of the community is the academy here, which is Interlochen Center for the Arts. And I think it's the only high school in Interlochen. There are high schools in Traverse City, but it's the only school nearby. It's on a 1,200 square foot, or 1,200 acre plot of land, and so it's a campus, it's a real campus, and so, there's a library nearby. We're in between a couple lakes, although, if you live up here, one of the weirdest things to me about being in this part of town, this isn't necessarily true of Traverse City, is that there's really not a lot of access to the lake. It's all sort of privatized, and so there are a couple there's one park where you can access the lake, and it's a very small beachfront. If you're on Interlochen, you can sort of get to the lake to some extent, but so much of that area is restricted because it's kid land, so they kind of there's not a lot of lake access that way either. So it's kind of interesting to me how how inland it feels to be so lakefront. It's actually there's more lakefront in Traverse City just because you can walk along the lake at Traverse City for miles. You can sort of step in between places to get to the lake here. And some of those places I'm pretty sure you could get kicked off of. So it's really a small town in that way, and it's really kind of isolated in that way from a lot of things, from the lake, from the town, from outside the school. I always feel a little bit locked in here, which is interesting. It's a little claustrophobic that way, I think.